Right now, we're going to move into our next story this morning. We've got Eric Kulisch joining us, our air cargo editor, to give us some updates on what's going on in the space. Eric, thanks for being here. We're going to start off talking about news from CargoJet as they're looking to sell off parts of their fleet and also simultaneously shaking up their leadership. Talk to us about what happened.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Kaylee, for having me on the show. CargoJet, they're the largest all-cargo carrier in Canada. They run a large domestic scheduled overnight network for the e-commerce companies, express companies, and also do, all-in charter work and rent their planes by the hour to other customers. And so, just like everybody else, they've been buffeted by the freight recession, and they are, they and a couple other companies have really made the decision to cut back their CapEx spending. They had plans to keep growing their fleets, invest in planes, and then convert them to freighters. And so they've signaled all year that they're dialing back on that. But there's, the cutbacks keep coming. They said that they've recently converted 4 Boeing 757. They're kind of medium-sized jets, and it looks like even though they just converted them and they're going to try and sell them. They have more than they need. Plus, they have a couple of Boeing 767s that they've recently acquired that they're just going to keep without converting for the time being. So, their core operating profits were down about 16%, and so they've just made those decisions along with some other companies. But then yesterday we got the news that they are changing their leadership. Their longtime CEO, the founder of the company, 22 years on the job, Ajay Vermani, said he was stepping aside to be executive chairman. And in an unusual move, they're going to have a two-headed hydra running the company, 2 CEOs, 2 of his longtime lieutenants that have been with him since the very start. So basically, original members of the company. James Porteous, the chief strategy officer, and Pauline Dillon, chief corporate officer. So that'll be interesting to see how that goes. But they're well respected. They've helped the company do quite well. This does not seem like, as best we can tell, like a transition at a few other companies where someone's been axed. It looks like a transition period. The change doesn't happen until January 1st. He's still involved, so it's not. It doesn't seem like it's because he's leaving because of anything that the company's been poorly run, by at least in the board's mind.
And Eric, are there any words on financials on what they're looking to get out of this sell and really where they stand right now?
They mentioned about getting about maybe $87 million for the sale of the 4 jets. I don't know if that means they'll take a little bit of a loss on them or not. It costs millions of dollars to do a conversion, millions more to acquire a used passenger jet. And, they earlier this year, they had plans to upsize to the Boeing 777 converted freighter, and they want to do 8 of those. Now they're only going to do 4 of the planes. The 3 of the planes they bought, they sold off before they converted, and a 4th they never acquired. So that CapEx cutback was already underway. And, similar cutbacks happening at Air Transport Services Group in the U.S., one of their kind of peer companies.
Proof that the air freight recession is still ongoing in the space. And alongside that thread, too, we're also seeing some companies have to not just sell off their assets, but slash some headcounts or look to reduce their headcounts through creative methods to do that. We've got news from UPS, who has now reduced their pilot headcount by just under about 200 pilots, encouraging them with buyouts and to transition from cargo to passenger service. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, really, it's kind of all part of the same theme. The cargo market is down a lot, and really the news, started with FedEx. We caught wind, and we're one of the first in the mainstream trade media to report that FedEx is basically urging its pilots some of them to quit and go consider a job at a regional passenger carrier called PSA Airlines. It's an American Airlines subsidiary. And, the thinking is they have about 700 or at least 700 to 800 more pilots than they need right now. The pilots are basically just getting minimum hours. So, they're maybe 10, 20, 30%, making that much less than normal because their flying time is down. So they basically, one of their top executives posted a memo to the pilot group saying PSA is offering these great deals, $250,000 signing bonus and a bunch of other benefits, and you should go take the deal over there. Pilots do not seem very happy with that. They prefer the approach that UPS took, which was in August offering their most senior pilots buyout packages, and we broke that about 193 of those pilots took those packages. PSA Airlines is offering those pilots the same kind of benefit or bonus package. So anyone who left from that cohort at UPS is welcome to go to PSA. But UPS doesn't have as many pilots that they need to cut. They grew more slowly than FedEx and put a lot more packages on the ground.
And Eric, did they throw any numbers out in terms of capacity on a moving average basis or anything like that, compared to where volumes were maybe a year ago or maybe a month ago?
Yeah, I think year over year, UPS's air freight volume were down about 16% in the third quarter. Both of them have seen their flight utilization go down quite a bit this year. I think FedEx is down about 11 to 12%, and UPS is down in the maybe 16% range, at least in domestic flying. And they've also had, cutbacks in their international routes as well. So, they've been parking planes temporarily, retiring their older planes. So, you just see a lot of adjustment in these networks and, across the air cargo industry.
So, Eric, obviously we know that the cargo divisions of our passenger carriers have really struggled for the entirety of 2023. But does the fact that they're willing to take on now these cargo pilots into their passenger service show that even though their cargo division might not be doing the best, the rest of it is doing pretty good?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting flip around. We've come 180 degrees since the pandemic. During the pandemic, cargo was, going off the charts with the demand, and passenger travel was going off a cliff. So passenger airlines, basically almost went bankrupt. Pilots were furloughed. And so now it's all flipped. Passenger demand is roaring back. The airlines are scrambling to get pilots back. The mainline carriers all have pretty much filled their pilot ranks pretty well. The problem is trickled down, though, to these regional carriers because, the mainline legacy carriers, the big carriers, have taken a lot of those pilots, and so they're the ones kind of holding the bag. So they're trying everything they can to recruit and train people, and it's expensive, it takes time, and so one trick is to try and get some of these cargo pilots that aren't flying as much. So we'll have to see how many of them take up offers like that.
Certainly a crucial time right now in the air cargo space. Eric, thanks so much for joining us and shedding some light on it.
My pleasure, Anthony.